Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Guy. This is Guy Talk Sports. Thank you so much for clicking on the video, giving me a minute. Tennessee beat Florida. We're going to talk about that. We're going to preview the Alabama game that's coming up this Saturday. Real quick, if you want to jump ahead to any part of this video, I will post timestamps for all the topics that we cover in the description below, so definitely do that. If you want to skip ahead. Also, before we do anything else, down below you'll see a subscribe button. Smash that for me. It really helps out the channel. Help me continue to grow this thing. Let's talk about that game. All right, so Vols give the Gators a loss for only the third time in nearly 20 years. So why does this win feel so different? Because I'm telling you, I guess when we beat them last time 2 years ago, I was running around the house, jumping up and down, grilling alligator, really celebrating. Because how the game went Saturday is typically how they go. It's always crazy. They always give us fits. No matter how good we are, bad we are, good they are, bad they are, it is always a close game. But I think, and I was, it took me till Monday or Tuesday to really let it sink in. Like, oh my gosh, we beat Florida. Like, that's huge. And I've just been thinking, like, why did it take that long for it to really sink in? Like, this is a big win. And I think it really has to do a lot with that Arkansas game, right? I think if you didn't have that Arkansas game the previous week, Florida is a close game. It's always a close game. It's always a weird game. So what if your offense didn't play great? That's how these games go. But I think that Arkansas game just left such an impression, not just on the fans, but also nationally. If you see how people are talking about Tennessee now, it is a big difference from how they were talking about it, a month ago. And so, and with fans too, like I think as good as the first three games went, when you finally got into some deep competition, the Oklahoma game, it's an away game, it's at night. You definitely put a halt on the offense, just trying to run out the clock, make sure you get that win. I understand that one. It really all points to that Arkansas game and when you think about it, Arkansas is another one of those teams that always seems to give us some trouble, especially at Arkansas. But for whatever reason, that game was a rough one. And then when you couple that with how the Florida game went, I think it really soured people. And you can see that in the AP poll. Tennessee dropped from 8th to 11th, even though we got a win. And so that's it. Not just me, but I feel like most people are looking at this team now a lot differently than how we were. And so I went back and re-watched the game just to kind of see, if I still felt the same. And I didn't. If you rewatch that game, I definitely had a different impression on it the second time through. So, Gators defense typically hasn't been that good. They played really well. They played really well Saturday. I'll give them that. It's trying to figure out how good did that defense play versus how poorly our offense played. This is the second game in a row also that the offense was held with no points in the first half. And I think that's the first time that's happened since Josh Heupel's been here. So it's just a weird thing for a Josh Heupel team to not have an offense that can put up more than, 20, 25 points a game. You're used to seeing him put up 40 plus. And so, you had the first half, Gators had multiple opportunities to score in the first half, and they blew it. Our defense was amazing. That entire maybe minus one play that game, and Mertz fumbles at the 1 yard line, and so you end that first half. It is almost identical to that Arkansas game. Just feeling like, it could be a lot worse, but we're only down by 3, so let's take that second half. And they did. And, they go down, miss an opportunity on the first drive. Florida goes down, scores, makes it 10-0. And then you think, oh, this could be really bad. And then Tennessee scores 17 unanswered, mainly on the back of Dylan Sampson. At last play of the game, Florida's driving. You have just an amazing play made by their quarterback, DJ Lagway, and it was like a 3rd and 18, throws a touchdown pass, puts it into overtime. Tennessee's defense then steps up again, and then the offense, takes control, runs it into the end zone, and that's game. And so, overall, offense not great, defense really good, special teams. You hit the field goal, but punting, especially the last 2 punts, even though there was some block in the backs, punting that weren't called. Punting definitely struggled this game. So there's definitely some good and bad. Let's kind of get into some of the good. So defense was amazing. Like I said, defense all night, except that 1 3rd and 18 play. This is another game where the opposing offense moves the ball almost at will between the 20s, but once they get in the red zone, our defense just completely shuts them out. I think Florida had 4 red zone trips and only 3 points, which is insane. And so defense really played amazing. I thought Jermod McCoy just had some really good plays. Ricky Gibson had some really good. He had a big 4th down stop where he was tracking. They were doing they were doing this little kind of end around play, and Ricky Gibson tracked him the whole way, stopped him on a 4th down. That was a huge play. I thought James Pierce had maybe his best game of the year so far. Like I said, defensively, amazing. Arian Carter caught an interception that really helped kind of really build that momentum in the second half. So defensively, amazing job. I think Tim Banks continues to show that with some more time in this system and maybe some improved secondary play, his defensive play calling has been really good. Again, minus that 3rd and 18, we only brought 4 and didn't get a lot of pressure on Lagway, I think, and he kind of rectified that in the overtime. So not too much good in this game offensively. The one thing that you can say that has been good is Dylan Sampson. Just like he has been the entire year. Sampson once again broke the 100-yard mark. He had 27 carries for 112 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns. That puts him at 15 touchdowns total, which is, I think, just 3 off pace from the most ever in a single season in UT history. And so he's 3 away from tying, 4 away from breaking that record. That's how good of a year he's had. He just continues to put this offense on his back and showing you why he's, in my opinion, one of the best running backs in the country. I think just behind that running back for Boise State, Dylan Sampson's been really solid for this team, and he's the reason. He's one of the main reasons you're winning that game, and he's one of the reasons Arkansas was a closer game than it was. Is because of Dylan Sampson. He's been a leader in the locker room, on the field. He is invaluable to this team. Just amazing player. I think I'll include also in the good, because I know a lot of people have been complaining about the play calling, this and that. After I rewatched that game, there are a lot of plays that were just missed. You had drop passes, overthrows. There are a lot turnovers, fumbles, interceptions. There were a lot of plays that were left on that field that should have been big splash plays. That you could tell Heupel drew it up and they just weren't executed. Or you'd have a big run. It was a holding penalty that just kept making mistakes. You had 10 guys doing the right thing, and then one of them wouldn't do the right thing. And it was very frustrating. And when I was watching the game live, I was like, man, this offense just isn't doing anything. What is happening? Rewatch that game, and you'll see those plays were there. I don't think Heupel's system has been figured out by defenses. I'm telling you, big plays are there. They just weren't executed. And so that kind of puts us into let's talk about some of the bad in the game. First off, Keenan Pili's out for the year. He's your heart and soul of that defense. Has been an amazing leader. Again, just like Dylan Sampson on offense, Keenan Pili's been in the locker room, on the field. He's been a leader on that team. and I think it's his knee. He goes out for the year, and you really hate that for him. He every interview I've ever seen of him, he just seems like a good guy. Has really put it all out there. Hadn't got to play very much football for Tennessee, but what he did, he really showed out, and we're definitely going to miss him. T-Lander definitely has to step up now, opposite Arian Carter. I know in the Florida game we played a lot of 4-3 instead of 4-2-5, where we were playing 3 linebackers just because of what Florida was doing. But I think you're mainly going to be seeing 4-2-5 from now on for the rest of the year, just because of our linebacker depth. Now, not that we don't have players there, but with Edwin Spillman out again for, I think it's his wrist, you're looking for some help there. Arian Carter, like I said, been playing great. T-Lander, I think he's been pretty solid this year too. So that's definitely something to watch. Offensively, I think if you're going to talk about anything, you have to bring up the offensive line. They have not been good. For the Arkansas game, for the Oklahoma game, I think everyone saw the Oklahoma game and was like, oh no, I can't block. But our 2 starting tackles were out, right? And so everybody was just thinking, well, it's because of that. And then the Arkansas game happened, and our offensive tackles have played very, very poorly. I think they had a little bit of improvement in the Florida game, but not much. I don't think there was a lot of improvement. You had Nico on a couple plays, a couple big scrambles, and they get called back because of holding. And I think hand position, footwork, there's a lot that goes into it. But Lance Hurd, again, he's just a sophomore and he hasn't played that much football, and I expect him to get a lot better. But he's been struggling, and the one I'm really disappointed in, and I know he's had this kind of chronic knee injury for this year, but John Campbell has not played very good ball, and so the 2 tackles are definitely hurting this team right now. And it's not that I don't think they can improve. I think they definitely can improve. I've seen them play better ball. Lance Hurd maybe not so much this year because against worse competition he's definitely played better. But want to see him continue to improve, and I think he will. He's a big guy. I think he's got a lot of room to grow, talent, in his efficiency at pass blocking. But there was one drive in particular in the first half where Tennessee's driving, and 3 plays in a row you give up sacks. 3 plays in a row, and I think those were the 3 sacks in the whole game, and it was on the same offensive possession in a row. And it took you from field goal position to being, I think, back on your side of the field. And so just some stuff you can't do offensively. Also, the offensive line, we have got to get going in the first half running the ball. That's not been good either. We'll talk about that more when we preview Alabama later on. So blocking's not been great. Receiving, I know Squirrel White made a few really good plays. He's playing, I think, with a hurt shoulder right now, and so some of the plays he made were amazing. But I thought someone that had a really rough game was Chaz Nimrod. He did not do well. I think he had a drop ball. There towards the end of the game, he's running a route very close to where Brew is running, and I'm going to give Brew the benefit of the doubt that he ran the right route. And so Chaz Nimrod did not have a great game. He did not play particularly well. There were a couple deep balls that were thrown to him. Nothing he can do about it because Nico overthrew him. And that's ultimately, with this offense, you can talk about the blocking and how it's been poor. At times it's been okay, but for the most part it's not been great. Receiving has not been great. It's been okay. Where this team, how this offense goes from here on out is going to be how Nico plays. And the last 2 games, not been great, not been good enough. I was thinking about it today, and this is really, I don't know, the first 3 games he was pulled early because we were beating teams so badly. So that Oklahoma game was the first game he's played all the way through. And then the next game is Arkansas and then Florida. So he's not played that much ball. So, the talent's clearly there for him. You've seen him make those plays. It's just under, big competition, under duress, he's making some poor decisions. In the first half, he's given the ball to Dylan Sampson, tries to pull it out so he can run, fumbles. First drive of the game. Can't do that. Another, on his interception, just looks down Brew McCoy the entire play, throws it right to a defender. I think it was like triple coverage. Just some stuff you cannot do. And so, and just pure dropbacks, he's having a very hard time. Again, not necessarily his fault because of how the offensive line's blocked, but I think he's been hit so many times now and pressured so much that I think he's starting to panic a little early in the play and not letting things develop sometimes. So what they were trying to do, and what I really like to see, was they were doing these kind of rollouts with him and giving him a little more space to work and make some throws. And like I said, going back, there were I can think of 3 specific deep bombs where he threw it, and it was just out of reach, just overthrows where the receiver couldn't get it. The Squirrel White one was close, just a few inches away, but just he had no pressure, just throwing it up. You have to hit those plays. You have to hit those deep plays, and he's just overthrowing people right now, and it's unfortunate because like I said, they were there. And that really could have turned the game around a bit earlier in the game if he hit some of those deep passes. So splash plays are there. They're just not being made. And Nico really needs to play better. So that's all I got on the Florida game. I think overall it's nice to get a win against the Gators anytime. I don't care how you win as long as you win, right? As long as you can win the game, no matter how ugly it is, it's still a win. It's going to be a win if you beat them by 50. It's going to be a win if you beat them by 1. And so it's definitely good to kind of take some time and really think about just how big of a win this really is. I don't care how bad the Gators are. They still have talent on that team. There's still people on that team that are going to go to the NFL. And it's a big deal that you won. And so definitely celebrate that victory, right? It's a big time win. 23-17, and that'll get it done. And so just barely, but it got it done. So let's move on to the Alabama game because this is a big one. It's a playoff game. Tennessee has to consider this game as a playoff game. I know Alabama is. Alabama in the first half against Georgia looked unstoppable, cream of the crop, top team in the country. Ever since that second half against Georgia, they haven't looked great. Vanderbilt beat them for I think the first time since the 80s. I think it's the first time they beat a top 5 program maybe ever. And so it was a huge win. Kudos to Vanderbilt. They've really turned it around. They had that one win against Virginia Tech, and they lost to Georgia State. And you're like, oh, that's Vanderbilt. They've really turned it around. You beat Alabama. You beat Kentucky. They're looking better. And it's definitely a team you have to watch out for. But right now we're focusing on Alabama. So Alabama loses them. Play South Carolina. They're huge favorites. I think 20-something point favorites. It's at home, and they almost played around too much and got beat by South Carolina. And that would have been horrible to lose back-to-back games to Vanderbilt and then South Carolina. South Carolina is definitely, I know their record doesn't say it, but they've been playing teams tough all year. They decimated Kentucky at Kentucky earlier this year. And Kentucky's got a decent defense. So, Alabama they just seem like they can't be consistent offensively. They definitely have the playmakers there. You have Jalen Milroe, who is just an awesome quarterback. At times can make some plays you're just like, what? Kind of head-scratching plays, but then at times, uses his legs, has the ability to make deep throws. So he can turn it on at any time. And if he has a really good game, I don't know if there's much that Tennessee can do to beat Alabama. There's not much that any team can do to beat Alabama when Milroe has an amazing game. And so that's obviously going to be one of the keys is to try and get him pressured. Alabama's secondary is definitely suspect. At times, they have not looked great. Vanderbilt took advantage of them. South Carolina took advantage of them. Both Vanderbilt and South Carolina on fourth downs in their games had huge touchdown passes that the secondary gave up. So how do the Vols beat the Tide? That's really the question that everybody's thinking. I know that's the coaching staff is working hard to figure out how they're going to beat Alabama. It can be done, right? This Alabama team is not Alabama teams of old. If they want to play like they did the first half of Georgia, yeah, it's going to be hard. But how they've played the last two games and how Tennessee's played the last two games, I think both teams have the potential to play much better than what they've showed. And so I think for Tennessee, I think there's a few different keys you have to go on. So you need to establish the run game early. And this is what I was saying earlier, that, you're held to 0 points the first two halves. Get Dylan Sampson running early. He's getting most of his yards, most of his touchdowns in the second half in the last two games. Get him going early. In the last three games, actually. Get him going early. Get that run game going early. And I think the biggest way to do that, I think there's two big ways to do that. And I think Nico has to run the ball. Nico has to start running the ball. I think earlier in the year they were trying to prevent him from getting hurt. We're past that. We're past the idea of is Nico going to get hurt? He needs to run the ball. I think because he has the potential to make huge plays with his legs. He's very fast, very shifty. He needs to run the ball more. Offensive line doesn't need to hold. But if Nico can run the ball more, that's going to open up so much more for Dylan Sampson. And I think they also need to help with all of this and how, because I think at times in the last few years with Josh Heupel, Tennessee's offensive line's never been super dominant, but because of the tempo, they could keep defensive lines on their heels. And I think they really need to start upping that tempo again. I know they're trying to give the defense, a breather and this and that. You got to start increasing that tempo. I think if you can increase that tempo, get Nico running the ball, and then that'll both of those will allow Dylan Sampson to start breaking some big runs in the first half. And I think that's really one of the big things that you got to get done. I think also one thing that you need to do is continue to roll Nico out of the pocket. Offensive line clearly can't hold blocks very well. And so need to preach on not holding, again, for Nico running the ball, but also on these rollouts because it's easy especially for tackles to get a hold when Nico's, swooping out. So that needs to be a point of contention, but Nico needs to roll out. And I think those short and intermediate passes have been there, and they've been hitting them. And then Tennessee wants to do those splash plays. I think it's important to keep hitting those short and intermediate routes. I think they need to increase the tight end rolls again. At the beginning of the year, tight ends were involved in everything. In these last few games, they've really not done anything. So I think really need to increase the tight end roll, keep hitting those short and intermediate routes. That's going to open up some big splash plays, right? Some deep passes, and Nico has to hit these passes. Ultimately, as much as I don't want it to fall on one player, on both sides of the ball, on both teams, this game is going to be predicated. And you can say this for any game, but I think it's especially true for this game. If you can get the best version of Jalen Milroe, Alabama is very hard to beat. On the other side, if you can get the best version of Nico, Tennessee is going to be very hard to beat. Tennessee is a very good defense. If their offense can just pick it up a little bit, Tennessee has a shot to win this game. And I think with Nico, if he can run the ball a little bit more, hit just one of those three deep passes that he missed from last Saturday, you definitely have a shot at winning this game. And so that's going to be huge. I don't think Nico is a bad player. He has the talent, right? He has the talent. He's just making some freshman mistakes. The offensive line has got him hurt, seeing ghosts, hearing ghosts. And I think he's going to be able to win us this game if we can increase the tempo, get him running the ball, hit just one or two of those big splash plays, and this is going to be a game that Tennessee can win. Defensively, I think it is so important to fluster Milroe and get him pressured early. If I'm Tim Banks, this game, again, this is for the season, right? Because if you lose to Alabama, you have to win out to have a chance to make the playoffs, and that's going to be really hard when you go to Georgia. As shaky as Georgia has looked over the last couple weeks, or over some of the games anyway, it's really hard to win there. And so you have to win this game. This is a big game. That's how important. It's a very important game. This is for the season, I think. And I think you just have to pull out all the stops to win this one. You can't let them sit in the pocket. If I'm Tim Banks, I'm sending pressure. If you get burned a couple times, fine. But I'm bringing a lot of pressure on Milroe, trying to get him flustered, sacking him as much as I can, get him in 3rd and longs, and try to get off the field. And I think, again, you give up some big plays, you give up some big plays. I would just take your lumps with that and just pressure Milroe and make him make mistakes, because he can turn the ball over. He's shown that this season. If you can get him shaky at the beginning of the game, this game can turn for Tennessee. And so defensively, pressure. Offensively, again, we hammered that home. But I think Tennessee has the ability to win this game. I think before the season, I predicted Alabama to win. Just based off what I'd seen in previous, from the last year and what I thought each team was going to be. After they played Georgia, I thought for sure Alabama wasn't going to win, and I've really changed my mind. I think Alabama's favored by like 2.5, 3 points. I've really changed my mind on this, and I actually am going to pick Tennessee to win this game. I could be very wrong. I think this game is either going to be a blowout and Alabama's going to just completely roll over the Vols, or I think it's going to be a close one and Tennessee wins by field goal. Right now, I'm picking Tennessee to win 31-28. Again, offensively, definitely need to show some improvement. I think the ability's there, though. The plays are there. They just need to be executed better. And I think at some point it's going to click for this offense. And I'm hoping that it's going to be for this game. I can definitely see us getting beat by Alabama. They're a great team. They have a lot of ability. Kalen DeBoer is a great coach. Coincidentally, both head coaches are from South Dakota. So that's just a little fun fact. But I do think Tennessee is going to get this one. I think a big part of that is it being a home crowd. I think they're doing an orange out for this one, which is exciting. That's what they did in 2022 when we beat Alabama last at home. So I think it's going to be a fun game. I think you'll probably still see some mistakes on both sides of the ball. But like I said, if you can get just a little bit of Nico running the ball, opening it up for Dylan Sampson, and then keep rolling Nico out, get him out of that pocket with a little space around him so he can make some plays, I think this game can go towards the ball. So 31-28, that's my prediction. How are you going to be able to watch this game? It is this Saturday, October 19th at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's going to be on ABC. It's going to be a big-time game. I'm super excited about it. The weather's been great the last few days. I'm hoping it's going to keep, being this beautiful on the weekend, because the weather's been amazing these last few days. So hopefully we get some pretty weather. It's the third Saturday in October. It's a big game. Again, this is for playoffs. If you win, your chances, you can lose at Georgia still and make the playoff. If you lose, you have to win out, and that's going to be a hard task for either team. So this is a playoff game for both. So consider this a playoff game, right? So that's all I got for this one. Thank you so much for listening to my ramblings, my observations from the Florida game, and how I think Tennessee can beat the Tide. So that's all I got. Thank you so much. Please hit that like button for me. Really helps me out. Drop a comment down below. Am I just spouting nonsense? Do you think there's another way the Vols can win? Did the Vols even have a chance? Drop a comment down below. How did you feel about the Florida win? Play calling, anything. Drop a comment. Hit that subscribe button for me. Help me continue to grow this channel. And lastly, tell somebody about Guy Talk Sports. Tell them, hey, do you listen to Tennessee football? Do you watch Tennessee football? Hey, there's a YouTube channel called Guy Talk Sports. He talks all about it. Tell somebody about it. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Go Vols. We'll see you next time.